Okay, before we get into this, we should probably talk about what sludge actually is. And sludge is the remnants, the solid remnants of wastewater and sewage water. So this includes human fecal waste and other byproducts we might flush down there. And one of the big problems with sludge is that there are many harmful things in sludge, such as parasites and other chemicals. And one of the why we use it on agriculture is because it's so effective and cost effective. And so when we use sludge on agriculture, we are no longer using fertilizer from cows and other animals. We're now using our own, and that eliminates waste in the world. And the environmental pros and cons are that it would have an effect on how refined it would need to be for it to be effective. And one of the economic pros is that it would be so cost effective that many countries would have their imports of fertilizer go way down. And the futuristic pros and cons are now that we can cut down on livestock and it would no longer be needed to have livestock just for fertilizer.
Our first solution is a solution to unprofitable problems, and this solution would reduce the environmental impact of development and contribute to efforts to sustainably intensify agricultural production. So this solution starts with South Asian scientists influencing sanitation policies, and according to Jeff Smith, a project has begun in northwestern Sri Lanka to demonstrate techniques for safe composting and turning human waste into a pellet fertilizer. He also states that it is turning an environmental and social risk into an opportunity. So currently, rapid urbanization in Asia and Africa has increased the number of poor people living in the margins of cities, which is putting immense pressure on already strained water and land resources. And the problem is more than 1 billion people lack access to adequate sanitation. Jeff Smith states, in India alone, there are more than 160 million septic tanks, yet only 10% of human excreta is collected and only 1% treated. And according to research from CGIAR, of the total septic collected from on-site facilities, nearly 3/4 of that is dumped into landfills, depressions, or the ocean. Think of all that remaining human excreta that could be collected and used as a useful resource for poor farmers. And as Paige Dressel says, while human waste management is a challenge, it also offers business opportunities and could benefit millions of poor farmers. So in conclusion, these new fertilizer pellets, they can help create jobs, generate business opportunities, and benefit millions of farmers.
So speaking on the economic solution aspect of fertilizer, according to the PLOS Environmental Research Facility, the application of sludge creates more production in food. So with more food, we can have more crops growing, and then we can harvest more. We can have more. With the more crops, we can lower the price of the food, and then the people with less money can now have more food, and that would be a great thing. Farmers can now afford more sludge. Sludge is less, it costs less than actual fertilizer. So now we can have more sustainable farms, which more sustainable farms will mean that create more jobs. More jobs will be great for right now, because the economy right now is all focusing on more jobs in the U.S. and the application would be great. So those pros, the cons, the health will go down. The health of the sludge will not do as great, and the harmful things in the that is released in the production of sludge. So overall, this creates a circular economy, and if you don't know what a circular economy is, it redefines the growth of focusing on positive socially wide benefits, and it creates a regenerative and restoring design according to the Ellen Manufacturer Foundation. And this graph right here explains the nutrient content and annual cost of 4 fertilization scenarios utilizing human excreta and commercial fertilizing. And this graph shows that the prices over years and the amount that's used, that fertilizer is becoming too expensive for farmers, and the sludge will help decrease that price and create more farms.
All right, so our second solution is another approach to implementing sludge in agriculture. So the first one was putting it in the pellets, and it's an easier way to distribute the sludge. This second one is for more developed countries where, according to the Food and Agriculture organization from the United Nations, they recommend this table of safety standards with metals in the sludge that's going to be applied. So for developed countries, it'd be more efficient to just screen the sludge for these metals such as zinc, copper, nickel, cadmium, lead, mercury, chromium, and more. And so, as Ian mentioned earlier, heavy metals are one of the most dangerous things that sludge can impart onto the soil and the crops, and as well as surface runoff can introduce them back into the environment. But there are some pros to this, as it will get rid of the heavy metals and make it safer to use sludge. But the constraints are that when you're applying, you would need to coordinate sludge application in accordance with planting, grazing, and harvesting operations, as well as import the sludge to the farms at the same time that they're planting. So it'd be harder to implement it because you have to be in accordance with all these farms. And then also, it can't be applied to any low-hanging fruit or soft fruit. As on top of that, it can't be applied to any crops that are in permanent glass or plastic containers, which that's according to the United Nations. But to truly implement a safe way to use sludge in agriculture, some argue that this could cause more limitations and problems than solutions, and indicating that this might not be the best option.
So in conclusion, we found that the best solution would be to actually use very high quality sludge and treat it very well. And so when we are looking for all those bad metals and those parasites, we treat them out. And so when we get this sludge to use on our crops, it does not have any of those metals in it or any of those parasites. And so this would be very effective in first world countries because they would have the infrastructure to do so. But in third world countries, it'd be much harder to do this. And here's our work cited.
You just had 2.
Well, we didn't put them in yet.
Okay, well, you want 2.
Yeah, no, we have 6. I just ran.